I'd been in the professional space working with all women my whole life. I did miss that. It's like a completely different environment, having all different women and having that kind of that friendship, and it's just completely different than like the tech bro world, and I miss that. When this benefit role came up, it was truly the perfect intersection of my past life in beauty, my new life in tech. I knew that that was the right route to go.
Chiara Figueroa is an entrepreneur and former beauty industry executive who is the owner and CEO of the Skin and Makeup Institute of Arizona. Her background in global retail experience and sales leadership has been instrumental in her business ventures.
How do you resolve doubts within people and build trust, for them to trust you in your leadership?
From the first day, I let everyone know, like, we're the only school in Arizona that focuses on skin and makeup.
Can you take us to the moment when you first realized beauty education?
I don't think there was one moment.
Today on Fat Hustle, we're joined by Chiara Figueroa, entrepreneur, growth architect, and owner of the Skin and Makeup Institute. Chiara's career spanned LVMH's Benefit Cosmetics, Salesforce, and Brigada, where she led global customer experience, rolled out Book Now and Yext across 5,000 plus stores, and helped drive double-digit gains in service booking and higher NPS. Now she's modernizing a legacy aesthetics school end-to-end. Operations, compliance, accreditation, marketing, the whole stack, and expanding with new programs and partnerships. If you care about building customer journeys that convert and student experiences that last, this is your episode. Let's get into it.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Chiara. Can you take us to the moment when you first realized beauty education could be redesigned? Where were you? Who was there, and what problem did you saw that others missed?
I don't think there was one moment per se. I think there was multiple moments. I think the one moment, going as far back as when I was a operations manager at Mac Scottsdale. At the time, I realized this is when like the emergence of social media and Instagram, when they had their like first logo. And I remember I had I realized this was a way to drive people to our stores. And I remember creating an Instagram because I had a lot of like Instagram famous people who worked in my store. And I remember I got my hand slapped because it wasn't approved. And then fast forward 2 years later, then it was a mandate across all Mac that every store needed to have an Instagram. So for me, that really was the moment that I realized that the cosmetic or like the beauty industry as a whole kind of operates in a very reactive manner when it comes to like growth and scaling and technology versus proactive. So I think that fast forward to my career, that's why I left my long career in beauty for a long time to go build my professional toolkit. That's why I went to tech for 2 years to see like, how do you operate in a more forward thinking mindset? And I think that time when I was in tech, that's really what helped equip me with all of these additional skill sets to be successful, focus on customer journeys, and put, the customer at the forefront of everything that we do.
And can you talk about your first experiences in beauty and how you came to be in that space in the first place?
Yes. So I didn't choose beauty. Beauty chose me. When I was in undergrad, I believe I was a junior or a senior. I worked at a sunglass store that was right next to Mac. And I remember I had gone in, I'd always been a Mac customer. And I had gone in to buy something, and the manager was like, well, why don't you work here? I'm like, I don't know, because I don't know how to do makeup. And so I went in for an interview and I was hired, and she had told me like, every time I come into the sunglass shop, you give great customer service. Like, I can teach you how to do makeup. I can't teach you how to like be a nice human or connect with customers and genuinely care. Like, those are skill sets that you can't teach. So I think it was really at that moment, once I was with Mac and I realized there was this whole other career that I had no idea of. That's really when like I never looked back.
And when you enter this space, they said like you need to have the makeup experience, but you don't really have it. Is that correct? And how do you learn this process?
Yeah, You didn't really need it at the time because, of course, it's a business too. You can teach anyone how to do makeup. But I think it was just a matter of like leaning in to all of my team. Of course, you go through like a proper like basic training where they teach you the makeup fundamentals and stuff. But really, where you learn everything and the technique is doing faces on the floor with your customers, color matches, full faces, demos, things like that. And that's where I really learned how to do makeup. I attribute all of my beauty to Mac, and their training is, I've never seen anything like it.
And when your first time, everybody that starts out makes mistakes, and you said you've done it on the live floor. Can you go through that experiences where you made a mistake on the customer, and how do you make sure that they're okay, or what were your feeling when you realized that you've done something wrong?
I think it's just like not listening. I think the biggest one of where I've made a mistake with a customer, it was actually a secret shop, and this has like stuck with me forever. And when I train people, I still use this story to this day. All of the managers were in Phoenix for a meeting, and they were changing a lot of the structure of makeup. And at Mac at the time, it was very short lived. Before there, you had to pay a certain spend a certain amount in products and you could get your face done for free. And they took that all away, and they basically said, well, if you're doing your job, the customer should buy anyway. Well, that was a terrible idea. And we were all really, really, because we love to do makeup, you know what I mean? But it was a very discouraging time. And I remember a customer called the counter and was really, really rude. And they're like, okay, so like you do free makeup, right? And I'm like, we do not put a minimum on your purchase. And they were like badgering me. And so I responded by the end of the call. I was like, so do you want the appointment or not? And all of the managers in that manager meeting were cold calling every single store to see how the employees were responding to this new rollout. And of course, I got written up. It was poor customer service and all of that. But it was a moment that sat with me forever, because it's like, no, you have to reframe. Even if you don't agree with something, reframe it in a more positive way, and also don't let it affect how you're communicating with the customer. So that that is something like to this day I will always remember, because wow, that was terrible.
How did they present you with that feedback in the first place? Were you like shocked? What was your emotions going through and hearing all this?
Well, I didn't know at the time. The next day when I came into work, my manager like pulled me into her office and was like, girl, what is wrong with you? I'm like, what are you talking about? And then that's when I found out, and I was so embarrassed. You know, I took accountability, profusely apologized. And really I had nothing to say. I'm like, honestly, I have no excuse for you. This is unacceptable. I agree. I let this thing that was so discouraging for me really take over me. Not that that's an excuse, but this is like kind of a gentle reminder that I need to be on my A game and really check myself before I come on the sales floor. So,
And you were doing this while you're doing your undergrad. How do you find the time between those two things?
I just, I'm a, I'm a planner. So I made sure I knew in advance, like basically stacked my schedule because I was a full-time student and a full-time employee. So I would go do all of my classes in the morning from like 7 to noon. And then I would go to Mac for the remainder of the day.
And upon graduation, do you realize that is your career is going to be in the beauty space, or do you want it to be more worthy of your career in with your graduation?
No, when I graduated, like I knew I was going to turn beauty into a career. And even before I graduated, you know, you get help from your parents, and it was a very like great feeling to me to be able to tell, you know, my dad, like, oh, I don't need your money anymore. Like this career that I've started to create in the beauty industry, like pays me well enough that I can take care of myself. And I knew exactly what I wanted. I wanted to be a trainer with Mac and be with them. Of course, like the company evolved and things happened, but I was with them for, I believe, 6 years. And then I went to Anastasia Beverly Hills. I managed the entire Bay Area. I was an account executive for them. And that's kind of really how there's just so many opportunities that I didn't realize until I was in that space.
That's amazing. What makes you realize that you stay with Mac and the team as opposed to looking for the opportunities that your university gives you?
I loved the company. I love the brand, like their values, what they stand for. Mac does an incredible job, and there was a lot of growth potential as well at the time. Mac's training is bar none the best, and it doesn't matter what industry I've been in. I always refer back to that experience because they don't not only give it to you from a like doing makeup and artistic standpoint, but from the business as well. They put so much time and effort on how to manage your teams, how to talk to your teams, how to lead with a business mindset, a lot of which that I still, those skill sets I still use to this day. So that was invaluable to me. And then I truly attribute all of my development professionally to Mac and all the training they provided.
Can you tell us about the decision that changed your trajectory in like benefit, cosmetics, Salesforce, and Verkada? Why do you leave Mac and the team since you love it so much and join all these companies? And what was your decisions behind it?
There was just no growth. The company year over year, I was continuously being promised and being developed for a position, and the position kept getting eliminated. And it was just because Mac as a whole was going through a downsize. So I just realized, after so many times being promised this role, like how many times, like I'll be here forever if I keep waiting for something. So, and plus I just realized it was like, if I'm no longer giving 110%, that's not good. So that's when I started looking for other jobs, and I realized, and it was a hard decision to make, but that's when I decided to leave and apply for and that's when I left to go to Anastasia Beverly Hills, which was also kind of familiar for me because a lot of the leaders that were over there were previous leaders at Mac. So it still felt like home in a way. And then when I left Anastasia, because I was in the Bay Area and I knew I wanted to develop more skill sets in tech, I mean, I'm in the mecca of tech. So I had to take a massive pay cut and step down to break into the tech industry. I hired a career coach, and shout out to Career Sprout. They are fantastic. Once I hired them, I got a job in tech within 45 days. Started at the bottom as like a BDR, and then quickly grew. Within 6 months, I was an account executive, and that's when I went to Verkada and then Salesforce. So those were in like tech sales roles.
You actually have a really lucrative, like growth-oriented career in tech, but then you decided to go back to the beauty space. What was the decision? And I know it's gonna be like an emotional one for you, because I feel like you put in so much effort into tech, building up the ladder, but then you decided to go back to the beauty space.
Yeah, it was really tough because I loved Salesforce. Absolutely loved it. Was so happy there. I think it was like two things. Because I'd been in the professional space working with all women my whole life, I did miss that. It's like a completely different environment, having all different women and having that kind of that friendship, and it's just completely different than like the tech bro world. And I missed that. I genuinely missed that. And for me as well, I think that the second deciding factor was like, I hated starting at zero every month. I just wanted something where I knew exactly how much I was going to get paid every single month. And I just didn't want to start at zero every month again. And then the third thing is when this benefit role came up, it was truly the perfect intersection of my past life in beauty, my new life in tech. And I just went for it, and I got the position, I knew that was the right route to go because the position had been open for a while. And yeah, that was a really, really great experience, and I'm so happy that And I was just on LinkedIn actually one day and I saw it. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna apply. Let's see what happens. And by the time Benefit reached out, it was like I had forgotten I even applied. That's how long it took. So once they did get back to me, I knew. I'm like, okay, if I was going to leave Salesforce, even though I love it here, it would be for this role.
And it's been amazing that you're climbing the ladder in such a short time. Can you talk about that process a bit more? And like, I know like people will be there for years without growth in Salesforce, but how was you able to do it?
Um, I think the culture at Salesforce is very um, everyone helps each other out. So, and all of the different um, groups and things that they offer and tools to help you succeed, I leveraged all of them. I think that, especially with my manager and my colleagues, who are some of like my really good friends now, I even reach out to them like, who do you know? Who should I network with? These are the kinds of roles or things that I'm interested in. I just try to honestly talk to everyone, get on people's calendars, senior leaders, things like that, just to demonstrate that I really saw myself growing within Salesforce. I wanted to be there. I had a clear vision of what my next step would be. So I was constantly networking with people. And making sure that the metrics and all the KPIs, I was not only meeting them, but exceeding them. So the energy that I was putting out in networking, the effort was also matching in what I was delivering for the company.
And upon leaving Salesforce, how does the others feel when you put all this investment and energy and you decide to move towards another place?
I know it was honestly, I cried like on the last team call. I was like crying. I was like, I'm going to miss you guys so much because it was such a hard decision to make. But I mean, the opportunity that I was afforded at Benefit was just the role. I mean, to have like a global role and that type of exposure, that was like the next step that I needed because I've never experienced something like that before. So it was scary, but I knew it was something that I needed to do. And I had lived, even during my time with Anastasia, anytime I would go, Benefit, anytime I would go back to Benefit, I had used to travel once a month from Phoenix there to, they called them Pink Weeks. And even when I would go back, I would still make time for my Salesforce friends, like going to dinner or drinks or something, because we truly, like, you build lifelong friends there.
Can we take a step back where you were with Mac and the team? And how's that process of leaving them? Because we have this team and this guy that trains you all the way from when you were undergrad, and he basically just made you into like his ideal team member. And how does that and how's that take on him, and how does that take on the team as well?
So Mac is a global brand.
Oh,
It's owned by Estee Lauder. Um, and it's different because I didn't stay with Mac just in Arizona. I was with Mac in Tucson, Phoenix, and then all over LA. So again, like all of those people I met along the way, I'm still friends with or still engage with on social media and stuff. And I just think that during that time, Mac was a completely different world. And it was so, if you were there, it was so fun. Wow, was it a time? Like industry events and things like that. But when I left, I think everyone understood and they knew it wasn't a question on why I was leaving. Everyone knew that I was being promised and developed for this role. And I just, I mean, how many times are you going to promise it to me and not give it to me? So everyone knew why I was leaving. I don't think it was ever a question of, why.
and when you jumped from Salesforce all the way to Benefits Cosmetics, how was your first day, and does you were you able to recreate the experience what you had with Salesforce and the growth as well that you wanted?
Yes and no. I think it was different in Salesforce. I was very bought in to like the corporate mindset. I was like, oh, I want to be VP level, C-suite, things like that. By the time I got to Benefit, my priorities had changed and like my why had changed. And that's when I started down the journey of wanting to start acquiring recession-proof businesses. So knowing that I no longer had a want or drive to be a VP, C-suite, maybe director level at best, but I really just wanted a role. And once I got there, it was very welcoming because, again, it was so good to be back in like makeup with all these women. Everything's pink, it's beautiful. I just wanted a role that I knew I could do well and excel in, while also maintaining these other things that I was doing. Like I would do benefit like 8 to 4, take a break, an hour break, and then I would do all my business buying stuff from like 5 to 9. So I wanted a role that I could make sure I was doing both without my performance slipping. So yeah, priorities just changed.
And what was the cause of it? What made you realize that maybe climbing the ladder is not the life for you? Maybe it's better to have like your own businesses.
I think that understanding, when I really realized like what my why was like, I want to buy back my time, right? If I want to take one of my parents, out of the country on a casual Tuesday, I want to be able to have the financial means and the time to do that. And you can't necessarily do that in corporate America unless you are maybe like C-suite or, in some tech sales roles you can, it's depending on like how large your accounts are, but to have that kind of like financial freedom and time, I didn't see corporate America giving that to me. So that's when I knew I was like, okay, now that I know my why, how am I going to go get it? And one of my friends at the time, I tried monetizing my social media because a lot of people were like, you should try that. Absolutely hated it. And I gave it a full 3-month effort. I'm like, this is not for me. I'm not inspired by this at all. And so one of my friends had told me, I think you should take this course by Cody Sanchez. It was like a financial literacy course. She's Latina from Phoenix, so that's why she had brought her up to me. And so I took it, I was bought in, and so she had other courses too, and one of them, it's called Contrarian Thinking, or at least it was back then, and they teach you how to buy recession-proof businesses. I'm like, oh, this is exactly what I need to do. This is my wheelhouse, to go and find these boring businesses, if you will, that are operating in a very antiquated way, and your job is to go in, build operational processes, help them scale, and surround yourself by building teams. No, so if you take a look at my whole professional background, that's what I've done in every single role. I was a cleanup crew at Mac. They'd put me in a failing store, I'd clean it up, get them to be a top performer, and they'd put me in the next one. So I know I have a proven track record of being able to do that and align teams. Tech and in benefit, it's like, okay, now how do you build processes and operations that are built for a very large scale? So it was like just taking all of that into like one new dream, if you will, or aspiration. I'm like, oh no, I can absolutely do this. I've done this before. It's just for other people, not for myself. So I joined her business buying community, and that's how it all started.
That's amazing. When people think of entrepreneurs, they always think of themselves like starting the business from zero. And with beauty space, that's always salons and that's becoming like an influencer and etc. And you're right in the center of it. Like, what did you ever look at those opportunities and consider like buying business the best one? Or how does that thinking process work for you?
I don't know if I understand the question.
The question is basically that since beauty is very lucrative within the influencer space as well, what decision, like what's the thought process of choosing the right path between being an influencer, opening a salon, and buying a beauty school?
So I don't do hair. I don't do nails. Like I'll do makeup, and I had a side business of freelancing, but that was more fun for me. I never wanted to be this like celebrity makeup artist, so that was never even in the cards for me. I tried this social media thing, and I actually like built a pretty substantial amount of followers in 3 months, but like absolutely hated it. I'm like, no, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. No. And then I wasn't looking for beauty businesses to buy. I was looking at really unsexy businesses: towing, landscape distribution, laundromats, gas stations, things like that, like truly recession proof. I never considered a trade school. It just never even crossed my mind. So then at the end of last year, this opportunity came across my desk and it caught my eye because I'm like, whoa, this is the industry that I'm in. I love that it's just skincare and makeup. So it's really, we're really experts in our field because most of the beauty schools are hair, skin, and makeup. And hair is truly usually the focal point. And then the other pieces are kind of add-ons. So I loved that my knowledge in makeup, and then obviously I don't know anything about aesthetics, but I'm learning. I just like that was the core focus for this school. And I think I knew after I met the owners, I remember driving in my car and it was like dead silent, no music, which is weird for me because I love to have it on blast. And I think it's because in that moment it was hitting me like, oh, this is the business that you've been waiting for. And it was such a great fit because, the first business you buy is going to set the trajectory to the rest of your career. And it was like, I knew it was the right fit because I've never been an entrepreneur, never been a business owner. So I knew that there was going to be a learning curve, but not as wide of a learning curve as if I would have bought towing, because then I'd have to learn a whole new industry. This, I already have credibility walking through the door day one, even though I don't know anything about aesthetics because I come from the beauty world and I have all these other aspects of my professional career that would resonate with the students, that would get a team behind me to believe in me and the vision and what I can do for this school. So that's kind of like how it all happened.
And can you walk me through that? Like when you were acquiring this business, were you working at the time, and how did you slowly transition? Were you managing the school at the same time as your own personal job, and how was that schedule?
Yes, I was. So I was doing both, and it was up until August, because when I started taking the business buying course 2 years ago, they have a lot of really great like work-life balance perks. And one of them was like mental health week. So I remember when I first started this, the VP was like, oh, are you going anywhere exciting on vacation for mental health week? I'm like, no, I'm like going to school and taking this course. I'll be studying the whole time. So everyone knew what I was doing. Unfortunately, once it happened at the end, they deemed it a conflict of interest. I think I was doing both for about 3 months. And they deemed it a conflict of interest for whatever reason. It's fine, but it was actually a blessing in disguise because there's no way I could be as far as I am even like 1 to 2 months after that had happened if I was still trying to manage both. So, like I thank Benefit for doing that because they did for me what I couldn't do for myself. And now that I'm just solely an entrepreneur, I can see how imperative it was that I like gave up that security of this like cushy job with a cushy paycheck and just did this and gave this my all. So
that's amazing. Can you walk me through this decision more, where you now have this security job where they now trying to force you out because of this conflict of interest, and now you, instead of having this comfy wealth lifestyle, you have to invest more in yourself to actually build like a business and grow what you actually just bought?
Well, I didn't have a choice. They fired me. They were like, hey, it's a conflict, so like we're done here. But I knew that like this was the universe kind of like pushing me into the direction I needed to be in, because the day before I got let go, I had already had a call on my schedule for my CFO of the Skin and Makeup Institute and my personal finance manager. All three of us were getting on a call because I was like, hey, I need to know, we already aligned. I know what I can pay myself and what, just to make sure that like my lifestyle doesn't change. So we're already aligned from a business perspective, but now I need all three of us to align of like the goals for SMI, how we're going to get there, how we're going to pay off like the SBA loan, how we're going to buy a building, all these different things, but all three of us need to align. So that call was already scheduled the day before. So again, like I already had my ducks in a row. It's just, I wanted the comfort of, quitting on my terms at the end of the year, and that's just not what happened. So.
And when you're going through the acquisition process, were you a little bit nervous that you actually trying to like invest your own personal money into like a business that you have no idea whether it's gonna be working or not?
No, because I wouldn't buy a business. So SMI has been around for 25 years. That's why I went the acquisition route and didn't. My wheelhouse is not like finding a problem, that everyone has and then solving it and creating a product or service around that. That is not my wheelhouse. My wheelhouse is let me take something that has a proven track record and I can make it better and I can increase and scale this. That is what I'm good at. So I would never acquire something that on paper is not profitable. On top of that, I know myself. I know when I say I'm going to do something, like I'm bet on myself and I just know that I'm going to do it and I'm going to do it well. And I think more importantly, I couldn't have done this on my own. And by no means did I do it on my own. I have an incredible lawyer who is so, so smart, and how she helped me and meet me. She really met me where I was throughout the whole process and explaining things to me, why we're doing certain things a certain way. Same thing with my banker, my SBA banker. Like, I would not be here today without the deal team that I had surrounded myself with. Like, I think it's so important to surround yourself by people that are smarter than you. And yeah, that's just how, yeah, I by no means did it alone is what I'm trying to say. And I knew because of the excellence that I had surrounded myself with, that there was the only way I could fail is if I just didn't try. So
Yeah. And how do you went from buying a course on acquisition to formulating your own deal team? And can you talk to me more about like your emotional state at the time? Because if I know like most people going through that first acquisitions, they're probably feeling scared and they're worried whether like their investment of them own money will work out. So
Mhm.
like, would you have a tip of those for those people?
Well, a lot of that business buying community teaches you that, of like what to look for, questions to ask, things like that. The other thing is, I networked with a lot of different people just trying to get like 15 minutes on their calendar who are a little bit farther along in the process than me, just to learn things and figure out what ways were people spending money where they're like, dang, I wish someone had told me that and I would have spent 10 grand or whatever it was. So one example of that was I had networked with one guy that was like, don't loop in your lawyer until it's like you're ready to sign the LOI, or the LOI has been signed. Because if you loop them in, they're charging you hourly. And if you're not signing, if the seller and the buyer haven't signed an LOI, then like, why are you paying them? So like little things like that. Just knowing when to loop in different people. I interviewed a ton of lawyers, a ton of bankers before. And for me, too, it was also very important to me that I had an all-female deal team, because this is a predominantly male space. And I feel like no one's going to take care of the girls like the girls. So that was also really important to me as I was like reaching out to people of, hey, do you know any CPAs? You know this, you know that. So yeah.
And you were doing this, formulating the whole team and networking while you're still doing your own job.
Yes.
And so, can you talk to me more about like you said they know a few months before, or did it know? Did your team at the cosmetics know about this whole operations, or did you?
No, the owners told them on the 16th of June, and then I came an hour later and basically like brought breakfast, introduced myself, and things like that. So
So, so you won't go through the acquisition process, but you also have this. You don't know about the culture of the team, of the school yet. So how do you went through that process of like trying to learn more about the culture and understanding like where do you place yourself within that culture of that team, and how do you maybe like change those cultures a little bit?
yeah, I'm not putting myself in any of the culture. If anything, it's like I'm creating the culture as the new owner, and whoever is bought into what I'm offering, like buckle up, like let's go on this ride together. And if you don't align, but by no means did I say, oh, like let me understand the current culture and like fit into this. No, like no, this is my business. So you need to make sure that you align with my vision. And if not, no problem. Because they're just I knew what the business needed. I think what's imperative when you go to any different business, just like I did at Mac and any different store, is like making sure everyone feels heard. So that first day I did nothing but have one-on-ones with every single team, just trying to get to know them. I had sent them forms before to just like, what are you interested in? Like not even business related. Like, how do you like to celebrate? Cupcakes, flowers, cocktails, things like that. Just really trying to get to know them and how they work best, what inspires them, and then using the one-on-one time to really understand their individual pain points, what they see are the growth opportunities for the school, what we do well, all of that. And then kind of just taking that whole week to observe. And I mean, with any acquisition, you can guarantee minimum 2 people will quit, which they did. But it didn't matter because I had already kind of had an idea of who might leave. So I had, even before I took over, I had started reaching out to people, going through my Rolodex, like, hey, so I had their roles filled pretty quickly after people started leaving and realized this just wasn't a good fit for them.
Becoming an owner is an interesting process because now the people, your team, they don't know anything about you, and the transition between owners, they produce like a lot of doubts on whether the business will be stable or whether there's could be future in it. How do you resolve those doubts within people and build trust enough for them to trust you in your leadership?
I think being able to articulate the clear vision that you have for the school, I did that from the first day. I let everyone know, like, we're the only school in Arizona that focuses on skin and makeup. We need to capitalize on it. We have something here. The fact that we've been around for 25 years, the foundation is here. Now it's time to modernize. Once I am done with this school, in 5 years, we will be the #1 school in Arizona, and this is how we're going to do it. And I think being very clear on the vision and then how each individual person, you see them in that future of the business, that's important, because you're also demonstrating it's like, hey, I recognize I can't do this alone. I very much so need you. And this is how I want to elevate you as we continue to grow. I think that's imperative. And I think being able to articulate those 3 things, that's what's going to get anyone's buy-in.
And you said a few people quit. Can you talk me through about that process? I know, like, when you're buying your own businesses, you want everything to stabilize so that you can run an entire business before anything could happen. So were those people critical, or like, how did that make you feel?
So again, going back to my Mac days, especially in California, the employment laws are very strict. So there's nothing from a people perspective that I can't handle. And I wouldn't say there were, in terms of like critical people, I didn't really like think of it like that. I wanted the chips to fall as they may. And then whoever is left, that shows me who wants to be here, who I need to invest in, and who I need to develop. Because what is the amount of effort and buy-in that is required to get where we're going? Like, I need people to be fully bought in, giving 110%. And if you can't give that, no problem. Let me give you the opportunity to go work somewhere else. You just can't work here. So I settled that to say, like, the people piece, I never really stressed on that. What really stressed me out were issues that arise being an entrepreneur that I've never dealt with before. Those are the things that stress me out, because I've never been this version of myself or had to encounter. So long-winded way of explaining. Yeah, the people piece, that doesn't scare me.
So when you're transitioning from a security safe job to being an entrepreneur, you had to reinvent yourself. And what was that process like?
I think giving myself grace and constantly reminding myself, like, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? So even though I have this laundry list of issues or problems or things that I need to do, being able to, one, empower my team. Like, okay, based on who's left and who wants to grow and things like that, let's promote them. Let's take all these responsibilities and divide and conquer. So that was the first thing, because I I don't need to be doing this. If I need to develop my people, I need to give them more responsibility, right? And then for me too, this sounds corny, but I love to read like leadership books, entrepreneur books, even scrolling on TikTok on certain like entrepreneurs, getting like quick tidbits of things to help. Or because I mean, sometimes it's very lonely, right? It's like, I'm responsible for the livelihood of all of these people. So even listening to quick like TikToks and things like that, just it was helpful because it made me feel seen and heard. Like I wasn't going through it alone, and there's other people out there who understand what I'm going through. But I think just taking a step back and really prioritizing, okay, where am I spending my time? And where does my time actually need to be allocated? So I don't know if you've ever read that Buy Back Your Time book, but that was huge for me to really, I would always revert back to that. I'm like, God, I'm doing exactly what this book says not to do. So like hiring a VA and all those things, like I did those immediately.
And I know like my uncle recently opened a salon recently, and he says that one of the biggest problem he faces is basically the employee drama between each other, and how they always tries to grab the customer so that they can make an extra money. Do you have those kind of dramas in your beauty school, or?
I think maybe in the beginning, just based on like previous culture, maybe what was tolerated. I have like a no nonsense. I do not tolerate that policy. Like we're grown-ups, so I'll have one conversation with you, and if we have to have another one, it's me basically gonna be asking you today's your last day or telling you today's your last day. I don't tolerate that.
And do you see the differences between the tech culture and the cultures in the beauty space?
Yes, they're vastly different. You're talking about like a tech bro culture versus like a bunch of women.
And what do you have to do to adapt to those different cultures?
I don't think anything that is like reinventing the wheel by any means. It's just go in with like a willingness and eagerness to want to learn. I did that in every space, especially in tech, because it was all brand new to me. And also building my own ethos by demonstrating, yes, this, let's say cold calling is new to me, but in all of my previous roles, I did this, and this, and being able to speak to those transferable skills to further reiterate to the people that I'm networking and working beside of like why I deserve to be here, why I was hired to be here. So being able to articulate that well, and then also lead with like the ideas of, yeah, I don't know how to do this, and this, and that's why I'd love to connect, and then like, obviously I think people love to talk to them about themselves. So also leading with like, I just want to learn more about like you and what has led to your success, and kind of like opening it, any networking conversation that way too. I think if you use that in any industry that you're in, that kind of like framework, you'll be successful.
And with all these experiences from tech to other beauties companies, what did your employees say about the change in culture when you made that changes?
The team that I have now, the ones that have stayed, we have almost a brand new team. But the ones that did stay from the previous owner that are really bought into the vision, like they've like thanked me, they feel seen, they feel heard, they feel valued. And that's really why I do what I do. I think what fills my bucket is obviously the education space, because that's what I was doing my whole beauty career. But what comes from that is being able to help the students and my employees, helping them and developing them into, their professional aspirations and getting them to where they want to be professionally. That is what like really fills my bucket and makes me feel good. And so to hear that from employees, like, hey, all the changes that you're making, that is like the fuel that I needed to like, okay, we're in the right direction, like work harder, like we're headed in the right direction, we're just not there yet.
And to percolate down to students, do your students notice that change in culture and their quality of the education they're receiving as well?
Yes, because I think before students maybe were not as comfortable to come to the people in charge and, tell them how they feel. And that was very apparent because even when I'd walk down the halls, I'm like, hey, good morning. And they kind of looked at me like, what is wrong with her? And it's just because that was not the environment before. So now I've created this space where they'll come and be like, hey, Miss Kiara, do you have a second? And they'll give me their feedback. And I really appreciate that. Like, we've done student surveys, surveys on the instructors and all of those things. But with any transition as large as this, there's going to be this area where it's like, I can see it, feel like where we're going and it's going to be great, but just in this moment, it's still bumpy. So I think probably by the beginning of next year, when we have all of the newness rolled out, it's really going to be just like a well-oiled machine. But, naturally, we're still in the midst of that transition, and but we welcome the feedback. So that's really what matters. As long as the students feel comfortable to tell me about their experience and how they feel, that's all I can ask for.
So going back to the acquisition process, most people are nervous because sometimes the employees are very critical to business, and most of the time smart businesses are family oriented. Like, they're family businesses where they hire their own family members.
Mm-hmm.
How do you enter that dynamic? Did you have employees that were family members of another, and how does that dynamic play out?
No, there was no family members here before. And I also think it's a huge red flag if a company ever says like, oh, we're like family here. Like, absolutely not. That will never be the culture here. This is a business. And I think too, when you lead with a culture of like, oh, we treat our employees like family, it's like, okay, so you're telling me you are actively taking advantage of your employees in some way, shape, or form. And I don't believe in that. I don't subscribe to that. I believe in work-life balance. So like, I've even put in things, something as simple as Slack. I'm like, no more text messages. Not that you can't text me if you want, but everything work-related needs to go in Slack. So when you're clocked in, you can check it. And then when you're clocked out, you can really, truly have that work-life balance. So kind of like, that's why I say like, no family. I do not lead with that. I do not subscribe to that. And I do not advocate for that kind of like family-owned business. Like, absolutely not.
And from all your experiences from your past companies, what things that you incorporate within your business that you see like a profound change? It could be whether that's like an offsite where you all bond together, or something that improves the culture, and etc.
I think it varies by employee. If you're talking about like, how do we change the culture overall, I think it's just having allowing your employees to feel like they have a voice. I think that's going to be like the biggest one. And understand like their why. Like, why are you here? Do you want to grow here? Is it you just want to expand laterally, or you want to teach a certain kind of course? I think that's what matters. Like, yes, I do think that team building outings or like dinners and things like that, those are important. But I think you really have to tailor and drive your employees based on like what resonates with them and what's important to them. Like, on all the first day, that's why I give all my employees like that get to know you forum. Because on their first day, if I know that you like sweet drinks, then I'm going to welcome you with like cupcakes. If you like cocktails, a bottle of champagne. You know what I mean? Because like, I want to demonstrate like I'm truly invested in you as a person, and I'm not going to do a cookie cutter way to tailor your experience during during your time at SMI. It's not going to be a one size fits all. It's going to be by what's going to resonate with that individual employee the most.
And that came from your past company experiences where you feel like you're not getting the proper promotions that you asked, and another like where it's conflict of interest. How do you incorporate the things that you don't like at other companies and sit within your business?
Well, I think if you're talking about like, I don't promise my employees promotions. If that is something that they're aspiring for, then I will hold them accountable, and I will make sure if they want more development, then I'll make time for that. And I'll teach them the structure of how to have a executive level one-on-one meeting with me. And what kind of core KPIs I want them to come prepared to track, and like different things like them, but it's on them. Like I will help develop and groom them, but like if they're not ready, I will be very candid about that. But I'm also going to commit to them that we'll get you there though. But you obviously have to do your part. So I make that very, very clear. So I don't overpromise and underdeliver in terms of like promotions and things like that. Other things, I feel like when I make mistakes or there's an error, I will always fall on my sword every single time, because I think that the culture and like the type of behaviors that you expect of your employees, you need to be the embodiment of that. So I also do that. So my team knows like, hey, I recognize I'm not perfect too. And let me, if I'm like, hey, I messed up, or I recognize this is an area that I need to continue to develop in myself, like I will always lead with that. So I think those would be like the two main things that I try, and just like communication, making sure my communication is very concise, because sometimes like me personally, I can move real quick, and like if I need something done, just going on this tangent, it's like, no, I used to hate when my boss used to do that to me. I was like, before you hit send, just like make sure it makes sense, that it flows, that the ask is very clear. So that would be a more like personal thing for me that I'm working on.
And what about the things that so when buying the school, you have to learn whole new about the curriculums and all the different skills. What happens when employee asks you uh, for feedback around their job and stuff, and you don't know much about it? How do you tell your employees, and how do you have them improve at their roles?
You would never ask like the CEO of a fast food chain, like, oh, how does the line work, or something like that. You know what I mean? Like the very like nitty gritty in the weeds about any certain particular job. You know what I mean? That's not my job to know that. My job is to know what I don't know. I know that I don't know anything about like the making a curriculum, things like that, and I know that that's a need. So what did I do? I went and hired a education director from my top competitor who's freaking killing it. So I know how to put people in place in areas that I know are my blind spots. But it is my job to understand, well, what are the pain points within that specific department, whether it's from an admission standpoint, front desk. Like I will try and do everyone's jobs to a certain extent, or at least sit and watch and observe for a day, so I can really see like, oh, this is what they're talking about. I noticed that it's taking them 6 steps to do something when can be done in 2. So like I'll observe, but it's my job to find problems and fix those problems for the department. And then the things that are very specialized that are not in my wheelhouse, find the right people and put them in charge so they can be the ones really in the weeds. That is their skill set.
That's interesting because when a first buy like a businesses, they want to actually see how it goes, and like you said, you want to sit there and observe. But for many, like it feels like from the employee's perspective, it feels like you're micromanaging because they don't know your management styles yet, so they judge you in the wrong way. How do you balance between like getting too micromanaged versus like backing off?
So I don't micromanage at all. And I think anytime I've shadowed an employee, I didn't just like sit down and like watch them. I think that it's like all the communication, like the front desk, for example. I know I can do the front desk job or admissions job because it's basically sales. So I knew I could do those things. So for example, when I was shadowing the front desk that week, I let her know like, hey, I want to make sure that like you're working smarter, not harder. And these are the things that I've heard, or student complaints are like, is what I'm hearing also a pain point for you? And so you're building trust that way, right? Because it's like you're leading with like all the feedbacks that's been given to you, things that you've observed. It's like, great. So like, what else? Tell me what else. And then they tell you, and you're like, all right, now that I have all this, I'm going to shadow you and let's like work together, because I think it's important that I do everyone's job to the best of my, if I know that like that's within my wheelhouse. So I can really figure out how I can make your life easier. How does that sound? Oh, it sounds great. Yeah, I'd love to help. So you know what I mean? It's welcomed, and it doesn't come across as like I'm micromanaging you. It's like, no, I'm here because I'm trying to make your life easier. And you're spending your entire 8 hours of one day calculating hours when I could just go buy a tech platform to do that for you. Would that make your life easier? And they're like, well, yeah, I free up my whole day to do this, this, and this. I'm like, great, so let me get working on it. So I think you lead with how it benefits them in every avenue. Now, when it came to aesthetics, that's not my wheelhouse. Writing curriculum is not my wheelhouse. But I found the employees who were wanting to step up, elevate them, and then also could be very transparent with them of like, hey, so today the job posting went up for the director of education, like, and then if I was doing second round of interviews were like done today, I'm going to job offer on Tuesday, and letting them know like, even though that's not my wheelhouse and I didn't forget about you, like this is what's in flight because I want to make sure you guys know that I'm in the process. So thank you for taking on these additional responsibilities. It's not for too much longer.
That's fantastic. We're only have like running about a little time, but do you want to leave like a tip for the audience?
A tip. I don't know. I guess like if there's something that you've been wanting to do and it's like on your soul to do it, bet on yourself and go do it. Even when people tell you you're crazy or look at you crazy, because there was many people that were like, you're gonna buy a business, like I don't get it, or like, oh, okay, sure you are. And now I'm sitting in said business that I said I was gonna buy. So if it's sitting on your heart, go do it, bet on yourself, every single time.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Kiara, for joining in this episode.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you so much.
Bye.